It's another Tuesday here at the moment, and today we have the dream blunt rotation, as always, Meredith Lynch, and you know them from everywhere. I get my news from V as much as I get it from anybody else, but if you don't know, V Spehar is an award-winning digital journalist and social media personality, the creator of Under the Desk News, and has built a following of over 5 million subscribers across social media. Like, V is running the internet, basically. You know what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about the Epstein files. V has been in them all weekend, and so have I in my own weird way. Then we're going to talk about Tulsi Gabbard and a whistleblower report that is literally locked in a safe, and I'm obsessed with this. Then we're going to talk about Trump and the arts. Trump and the arts, cisgicians. That's so good. Trump is going to sue Trevor Noah, apparently, and close down the Trump Kennedy Center. And then we're going to talk to Senator Tina Smith of Minnesota about ICE on the ground in her state, and then DHS funding as the Senate negotiates that. Sorry, Meredith, you go set us up for the Epstein files.
No, there's just so much happening. I mean, the final Epstein dump has come out. It was 3 million pages, thousands of videos, lots of images released. Deputy Attorney General and Trump's former personal lawyer, Todd Blanche, says that this will be the last of the files to be released. And if you thought it was a conspiracy to say the world is run by a bunch of old, rich losers running a sex trafficking ring, well, you'd be wrong, because the files are so wild. And I want to talk about, like, first of all, Elon Musk is writing to Epstein, asking if he can join his wildest parties on the island several years after Epstein had been arrested the first time. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who had previously said he spent zero time with Epstein, in fact, did go visit Epstein in 2013. The emails go on, but the DOJ failed to redact pictures and identifying details of the Epstein victims throughout the release. And there's also a trove of uninvestigated tips reporting on all sorts of really gross allegations against Trump in relation to young girls. So I want to kick it to V first, because you've really spent a lot of time in these documents. I also have as well, but I'm a little more selective. I just have a list of like 30 men I hate who I just keep searching in there. And 2 of them are ex-boyfriends. But no, I'm just kidding. But I would love to know, like, from you, obviously you've been going through the Epstein files for a while. You know, there's been other dumps of them. We get these 3 million documents. What for you has changed in this sort of dump of files? What has been sort of the thing that you go, oh my God, I can't believe this is in here?
So I think that there's a lot of folks out there that are covering the sex crimes very well. I mean, Tara Palmieri has been on this for like a decade. Julie K. Brown, Vicky Ward, those women are doing just incredible work. They know the victims. They've developed relationships with them. They've helped them advocate and really got us to this point where now we are seeing this trove of documents and hopeful potential accountability in the future. Where I've been looking is more in the corruption and like the bigger structure that enabled this. Like, why was this happening? Who was funding this? What players were involved? And in the 27 plus hours that I've been in these documents, I've actually tried to shield myself from reading too much about the sex crimes, because that is something that it shuts you down right away. And I feel like while people are running this way, trying to help this, I'm like, okay, let me run this way and see if there's something we do about the structure to expose the structure of power. And what I found was, for all of the conspiracy theories all these years about Epstein being that he was part of Mossad or he was like in some Illuminati, he's very, very connected to Russia. And a lot of this comes back to Putin, and a lot of this comes back to geopolitical forces involving Saudi Arabia, with the end goal being to humiliate the West and to create a new world order. So we have the new world order after World War II, which was like the United States and the Allies would sort of run the world, and the US would provide policing and security. And over the last, I would say, certainly really since like maybe the late 90s, there has been an effort for Russia to be included more authentically in who is the new world order. And I think that a lot of this we're going to see is Russian propaganda coming into Western spaces, trying to break up our relationships with allies, trying to soften Saudi Arabia's human rights violations. And they are all connected to Epstein. The compromat that Epstein used essentially to humiliate these men and keep them in his circle is one thing, but it really is just sort of gives me pause when I'm reading these emails of these fucking loser dudes who are so obsessed
Losers.
with each other's, like, they're such losers. They're so obsessed with each other's, like, approval. There's a lot of insecurity coming from world leaders and like billionaires to Epstein. And he's like sort of talking them through, like, no, you're okay, dude. Like, you're going to be okay. Like it is unusual that Epstein became a figure of comfort for some of the world's most important men. And at the same time was sort of building them up into becoming, you know, either pedophiles or giving him their money to invest. Like, there's just, it's such a big, weird thing beyond the sex crimes. And that's sort of what I've been looking for now, because the only way that we stop this is with generational power shift.
Yes.
There is no one it's why you see Congressman Garcia be so unafraid and brave in the oversight committee with holding people accountable, because he's not tied to it. Anyone over 50 is probably some way connected to someone in the files, whether that's through power or money or influence or funding they got to start their campaign, to start their news group, which we will talk about some of the independent journalists out there that were funded by Epstein connected money and are now running CBS, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that. I just want to throw out, like, they've done a pretty good job about disrupting the Western order. One like news item that I keep seeing, but we're not really talking about, is the UN is going to run out of money by July if the US and other countries don't pay dues. While Trump is building up his board of peace, wherein Palestinians get no say over their own sovereignty and reconstruction, and just like it's a very successful operation, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is the thought of the UN like actually being like, hey world, we are literally less than 6 months away from an actual collapse is it's crazy. It's crazy. Should we talk about Peter Attia though?
Well, I mean, here's my thought. Like, this is the thing that keeps coming up for me, because what I've been doing with the Epstein files, and I appreciate what you're doing with it, V, because I don't see a lot of other people talking about it like this. So this is like mind blowing to me. Now, I've been in so deep with my old friend, private equity. And so there's a lot of ties between Leon Black and Jeffrey Epstein. And if you go through the files, Leon Black used to be the CEO of Apollo. He stepped down because of ties to Epstein. He can't explain why he gave millions upon millions of dollars to Jeffrey Epstein. Like they're like, why did you give all this money to him? And I have to tell you, the only thing I can come up with, and the amount of times that the two of them were meeting in person alone at his apartment, is like, and they were roommates. Like, I think that was, I really think they were together. I think there was some type of sexual relationship between the two of them, which, like, I don't know if I should even say that. I can probably get sued. But that's my suspicion, is I think they had a relationship. Now, the other piece of it that I wanted to say is Steven Schwartzman is the CEO of Blackstone, which is another really large private equity firm. And he's close to Trump, but I've never found him to be close to Epstein. Now, when I go through the files, Steven Schwartzman comes up from time to time. And this comes up so much, but I want to use it with the example of Schwartzman. Schwartzman's having a party at his house for the movie The Imitation Game. It's a small cocktail party. There's a few of the actors are going to be there. It's being hosted by him, Michael Bloomberg, George Stephanopoulos, etc. And they are so eager to get Epstein to attend. And what I don't understand, and I know this is a long way of saying this, but I'm just like, if I had a friend who was convicted of sex crimes of a child, I would never want to see them again. And so I just don't understand. And then I'm like, all right, is it just because they were like, maybe he'll finance this next thing, maybe he'll do this? And that's what I find so mind-blowing. To me, the cutoff is like 2007. If you were with Epstein after 2007, I think it's completely unforgivable. If you were around him before that, I'm not saying it was okay, but I'm just saying maybe you didn't know. But then once you had that concrete proof, what do you guys think of that? Am I crazy to like have this cutoff?
I think you should I think you're wise to bring up these social parties that they were doing. And the thing that I want to impart here is the idea of nostalgia and the fact that a lot of these men saw their friend get in trouble. Well, he did his time. I never had a hard time with him. You got to remember this. Epstein like trauma bonded himself to these men. He was their like confidant. He made them feel good about themselves. He did help them get connected and be successful. And I think the nostalgia for Epstein outside of the crimes, they were willing to put that aside because they missed their friend. There are lots of people who are horrible people who are good friends. pick you up from the airport. They're a nice person to talk to. They make you feel good about whatever, but they're doing horrible, horrible things, right? So I think that that's part of it. But the social events is where Epstein really shined. And the one thing that in the sort of like, how are they destroying the New World Order? How are they destroying the West? Was by capturing news and entertainment. And this is something that Epstein was involved in. There is an event that was held in Jared Kushner's honor that was in like 2013, so well after the fact. And it was when Jared Kushner bought the New York Observer, made it the Observer. This is the first time they're starting to fund. And this is where you start to see the narrative on the right of the mainstream media can't be trusted. Only trust independent voices, the Daily Wire, the Free Press, the New York Observer, these independent things. This is all connected. And who's on this planning committee to honor Jared Kushner, but like Cory Booker, Mariska Hargitay, but then also Harvey Weinstein, also like all these people. And the fact is, this was the plan. It is to put a bunch of normie people with high trust in a space with a bunch of very nefarious evil people to try and soften the evil people. Matt Lauer is involved here. Katie Couric is involved here. Now, it was years before Matt Lauer and Harvey Weinstein would be held to account. But the fact is, when you look at that snapshot of 2013, Jeffrey Epstein getting back in good graces, getting invited to social events. Who's on this planning committee to honor Jared Kushner? Jared and Ivanka were Democrats at that time. Ivanka had a shoe line and a fashion business. Like, we have to place ourselves in the fact that this was not obvious to people, but it was obvious to Epstein. He knew what he was doing by putting these certain people together. And they're, again, begging him to come to their party.
Can I say, I just want to say two things before we move on to Tulsi. But okay, one, even in 2026, when this is so obvious, it is still so hard for people to say that these were little girls, right? Like, it's still so hard. And so I think part of that cutoff is like the amount of men who are willing to be like, she was 15 and she had boobs and she was hot. I think like that's part of it is like how many men are willing to womanize children and like not put this in their mind as pedophilia, which is what it is. And then the other thing I want to say just really quick, because this has been my special interest with the Epstein files, is I keep seeing this Tiffany Doe affidavit circulating around the internet. And it's actually from a case in 2016 where a Katie Doe came forward and put forth more than one case saying what we now know to be a very classic Epstein move, that when she was 13, she wanted to be a model. She met Ghislaine Maxwell. She was invited to parties. And at one of those parties, trigger warning, Donald Trump brutally raped her. And Tiffany Doe was her friend who corroborated that in a sworn affidavit. And this has been on the internet since 2016. We did not need the Epstein Transparency Act to know that there are very credible, these are not tips. These are not, and by the way, Tara Palmieri, who we've talked about, brilliant journalist, in 2025 got in touch with the lawyer, one of the lawyers who represented Katie Doe at the time. And he said to Tara, I don't even know if she's still alive. Nobody has been able to be in touch with this Katie Doe since she dropped out of the public world in 2016. And so just like, this has always been in front of us. It's just so big and so grotesque and such a mirror to all of our lives that I think we're sort of incapable of really like actually taking it in. The
last thing I would just want to say about the Epstein thing is the capture of our entertainment and news to like because it's happening even to today. Yes, this man's been dead since 2019. It doesn't matter. There are emails where Epstein is asking Bill Gates' former chief of technology about Larry Ellison, and is beginning this like inquest into, do you know Larry Ellison? Would you introduce me to Larry Ellison? Larry Ellison. And then later meets Nellie Bowles, who was a reporter at the New York Times. And I was like, well, maybe he met Nellie because she was trying to do a story on him. No. Nellie was introduced to Jeffrey Epstein through Russia's favorite teenage propagandist, this woman whose name is Masha Drakova, who actually had a movie made about her life called Putin's Kiss, because when she was a child, she was so pro-Russia, she got to meet Putin, and she was so overcome with love for him that as a child, she kissed him, and they made a whole movie about it. Anyway, so Nellie, I don't know, she's listed as friend of Masha when she gets introduced to Epstein. Shortly after that, he has an email to her where he says, is being with your new babe, which is Barry Weiss, as good a decision as the career change we talked about was. And that career change is her going from New York Times to starting the Free Press with Barry Weiss.
Really?
So where did you get the money for the Free Press? I mean, somewhere. It's not like Nellie came from money or anything. And that's in there.
She's cousins with Tucker Carlson.
True. So there's something there, but I'm very interested in the initial funding for the Free Press now. And Epstein sending Nellie Bowles emails afterwards where they are talking about how'd it go with Barry meeting your mom. And she's like, hope to see you when I'm back in New York. And then he says to her, there's a girl that he's sending to Nellie Bowles. And he says, don't touch her. You're going to like her, but don't touch her. She'll be at the summit. The summit is Dialogue, which is the pro-natalist super deep secret billionaire event that happens annually at an offsite in the middle of Colorado. And then, so moving on, because this is I don't know, this is going to be a 75-page Substack sometime. The Free Press is then acquired by Paramount for $150 million, not but 4 years later, which is Larry Ellison's son. So I'm just sort of very interested in the funding umbrella and the sort of coincidence of him asking about Larry Ellison, somehow the Free Press getting funded, Free Press getting bought by David Ellison. Now she runs CBS. CBS is loaded with people who are in the Epstein files and connected to Trump and whatnot. And it's just a very weird thing.
We could do this for literally forever.
But that's where I am these days.